I am told that the subject for my talk this morning, before we go into the meditation sessions later in the day, is the art of healing, the healing arts that people are practicing. This is an important subject because so many people have asked me whether the different ways of healing that people are employing are consistent with the spiritual path. Should people who are following the spiritual path actually practice healing? Does it interfere with their spiritual progress? Is it proper for them to do it? So I thought it's a good time for me to make a few comments on the healing art that exists and their effect on the spiritual path. As you know, the healing is of many kinds. There is physical healing, there is subastral healing, there is astral healing, there is mental healing, and there is spiritual healing. People practice different kinds of healing. The physical healing is practiced by all the doctors, modern doctors, who diagnose what the disease is and prescribe a drug which should counteract that disease. Most of these systems of modern medicine, of healing, are called the allopathic system of healing. The word allopathic is derived from the Greek origin, which means allopathos, that means changing of the pathos, changing of the state of being. If you are sick, give something that should counter it. If you are having a fever, give or inflammation, give an antibiotic which should reduce the fever. It's like opposing the force of the disease by healing with the opposite force. So it's called allopathy. There is also a practice called homeopathy. Homeopathy means creating a similar pathos. Homeopathos. That means similar, cure similar. The founder of that system, Samuel Hahnemann, lived a couple of 100 years ago in Germany, and he founded the system based on the principle similia similibus curantur. That means similar will cure similar. And it's not that the opposite will cure. Opposite will give you relief. But for cure, he thought you have to have a similar thing. That means if the disease creates certain symptoms on your body, give something that would create similar symptoms in a healthy body. And when the disease expresses itself in the language of symptoms, you can read the language of the symptoms, and that is the language of the disease, and not the kind of diagnosis that the allopaths make. So homeopathic system became quite prominent at one time, and it's coming back into being again. It's coming into popularity again, and is based on this principle that whatever illness can be caused artificially in a healthy body by giving any kind of substance, the same substance in a very diluted form will be able to cure the same disease. And that is very popular in some countries, especially in Germany, in France, in India, and now coming back into the United States. There are other systems which are also well known. The Ayurvedic system is one of the oldest systems, started from the Vedic times and is traced back to history of 6,000 or 7,000 years. And there are some prescriptions written down in old literature which are supposed to be several thousand years old and are still being used by the practitioners of Ayurveda today. A similar system was started in Greece called the Unani system. These two systems of healing employ what they call the three different doshas, the three different aspects in which the body survives, and that three doshas they consider are pitta, which is the hot dosha, and there is kapha, which is the phlegm in us, and then there is the vata, which is the air. They think that with these three doshas we can diagnose anything. They depend very heavily, these two systems of healing, the Ayurvedic system and the Unani system, they employ the diagnosis by reading the pulse of a person. Practitioners still today are employing the system by which they can see the wrist of a person and put their fingers, 3 fingers they put on the wrist, at an appropriate place just below the wrist. And the 3 doshas are read immediately by the 3 fingers. And you can see where the pulse beats. You will notice that the pulse beat is different at the 3 different positions. And on that basis, they can diagnose, and the treatment is based upon a diagnosis of that kind. The Ayurvedic system is using more of the basams, that means oxidized materials of metals, minerals, and so on, which have been proven to relieve different kind of illnesses. So it's a popular system in the East. The Unani system relies upon more of what they call the syrups and the cold drinks, because it was in a hot area, and they thought that all medicine should be given in the form of nice cold drinks or in the kind of kushtas. That means you make a preparation, concoctions of pastes of different kinds. So there's little difference in the type of material they use in the healing. All these systems employ the physical body, analysis of the physical body, reading the pulse of the physical body, taking vital signs of the vital body parts, and then prescribing a treatment. This is all healing by the physical methods of the physical body. Then comes the subastral healing, sometimes called the psychological healing, psychic healing, and those include several kinds of healing methods, Reiki being very popular here, where you have 2 kinds of hands on and hands near the body. You can touch the body, give certain kind of massages, and that heals the body, or you can pass your hand with your energies for the body. Because these types of healing involve the energies, most of the time the energy of the healer is being used to cure, and in many cases the disease affects the healer. I once attended a conference in the Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship, and they thought I was a healer, and therefore they put me in a group of healers, about 20 healers who are practicing the Reiki and other kinds of healing systems. And I must tell you, all those 20 were sick themselves. So one of the first principles of healing is heal thyself. If you are sick, and I questioned them, I said, look, if you are healing other people, you are sick yourself, what standard do you set for other people? You must be first healing yourself. If you can't heal yourself, how do you heal others? In later discussions, we discovered that many of them were suffering from the same diseases they were trying to cure. Based on the law of karma, it appears that when you heal through subastral energies, you take on the karma of the person you are healing. And therefore, it's not advisable to do that kind of healing which transfers the karma. It's not easy to transfer karma of one person to another, but those methods of healing very often transfer, and the healers themselves become sick. And therefore, it's not a very good system, and although it's practiced widely, it interferes with the spiritual progress of any person who is on a spiritual path. These subastral healings are then followed by the astral healings, which is through sense perceptions only. So those involve a lot of suggestive powers, psychological suggestions, psychiatric treatments, and so on, where the power of suggestion is used to heal. There also, the danger is that in dealing with the patient who you are trying to heal, you are picking up some of the karma of that patient. That is why the suicide rate amongst the psychiatrists is the highest amongst all group of people in the country. Those who are trying to cure other people of their mental illnesses themselves get so depressed that they can't survive, because as they heal through psychological and psychiatric methods, they get those same symptoms themselves. These are also not very good for practice of the spiritual path. Then there's the mental healing, which of course is, they use mental kindnesses, mental power of moving things, and so they use the power to move things in the body. And those also hurt the mind of the person who's trying to practice these. These kinds of healings have all these deleterious effects on the healer. But there is a healing called spiritual healing, which is healing with love. Healing with love is a spiritual thing because your soul is involved and neither your mind, nor your senses, nor your body is involved. Prayer from the spirit very often helps in healing. We have seen so many cases where prayer from the spirit healed somebody. That does not cause any harm to the one who is healing and helps the person who is being healed. Does not transfer karma but lightens the karma of that person, because the healing is taking place from the spirit, which is beyond the karma. Our spiritual self is not bound by karma. It lies in Parbrahm, beyond Trikuti, beyond the domain of the mind and domain of karma. When we talk of the law of karma, it only operates from the mental level of our mind. All karma is stored on the mind, is played out from there. Therefore, the healing that is done from any part of the consciousness that is beyond the mind does not cause any deleterious effect. Indeed, very often, it helps you to be compassionate with people and use your compassion and love for people. Pray for them with love, coming from your, what they call heart, which is actually the spirit. And that is a good way of helping people. I have suggested to many healers who are practicing healing through the energies to shift to healing with love. It has benefited them a lot. And their own health has improved as well as the health of those who they tried to heal. So these healing arts, there are so many kinds of them, and they, as I mentioned to you, some of them do interfere with our spiritual growth, and some of them do not. So those that do not interfere are those where we do not transfer any of the karma to ourselves. Because when karma is transferred, it creates an additional burden for us. We already are all overladen with karma.